You know, if there was a master class on how to choose the heaviest, most backbreaking camera equipment, I could probably teach it. If you're looking to purchase something heavy, give me a call. I can help you out. I'm an expert in that area. 21 pounds of camera gear. At 68 years old, that's not a good idea. So I staged a little self-imposed intervention. I told myself, if I want to keep hiking into my 70s, something has to change. I recently posted a video, the 5 trips that pushed my limits. In the comments, and there were a lot of great comments, by the way, several of you mentioned the changes that you've made to your camera gear to lighten your load. And I thought that this is probably a topic that many of us have an interest in. So I did some research, crunched some numbers, and with a little help from ChatGPT, I put together a near-term plan that's going to lighten my load. But I also took a longer-term view at what I could possibly do in the future. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm cutting real pounds out of my bag without giving up the photos that matter the most to me. And I'd love to have your help shaping where I go next. So as you're watching this, think about your own kit. Is there one piece of equipment that's either, killing your back or your knees? So I'd love for you to put it in the comments. It was really your comments in the previous video that made me really think hard about this topic. And as a result, I decided to make a video about it. So let's take a look at what I've got in the bag. So here's what I've got in the bag today. And this is before you start talking about, rain gear and snacks and all those other things you bring on a hike. But the equipment itself, I've got my Canon DSLR, and I carry 4 lenses with me. I've got an ultra wide, a wide, mid range, and the long lens. I've got my tripod kit, which is the tripod itself. I've got a gear head and a leveling base, and the camera and lens, that's 10 pounds. The tripod and its attachments are just a little over 7 pounds. And then I've got a great camera bag, but it weighs over 4 pounds. So that's 21, just over 21 pounds in the bag. That's just a lot of weight to carry around. Now, here's the good news. The good news is I'm ready for anything that could possibly happen. Great sunset, waterfalls, herd of elephants, all kinds of wildlife, birds flying by. If any of those things happen, I will be ready for it. However, I've never ever been on a hike where all of that has happened. And when I do go on a hike, I usually know why I'm going. So maybe I just need to start doing things a little bit smarter. Now, the solution is easy. Just bring what you need. So you can divide your kit up into 2 modules. One is the landscape kit. And if you've got the landscape kit, you really don't need the long lens. Still have to bring the tripod. You still have to bring your camera, and you probably want a wide angle and maybe a mid range. And what that does is it immediately reduces, at least my bag, from 21 pounds to just over 17. Now, I know there are instances in certain areas, certain landscapes. Let's say you're in a big mountainous area, those are the times having a long lens is very helpful if you want to zoom into some peaks. So if that's the case, then you just have to make a choice. You can either say, I have to hike this long distance, so I can't carry everything. I'm just going to have to miss out on those opportunities. Or you can decide, well, it's going to be hard, but I want that shot, so I'm going to carry the whole kit anyways. But you've got a choice. It's quite a bit clearer when we look at the wildlife kit. You can get away with leaving most of it at home. You don't need the tripod. You don't need the wide angle. You mostly need, at least in my case, I would need the 100 to 400, and maybe, just maybe, I might want the 24 to 105 if I think there's going to be some wildlife that's going to be relatively close to me. But as you can see, you really, really reduce the amount of weight that you're carrying around. And I can even envision instances where all you need to do is carry around the camera. You don't even need the bag. If you're wandering, let's say not far from your vehicle, where if you do need to go back and get something, you can very easily do it. So there are options here where you don't have to carry around much at all. There is one other wildlife kit that I have, and it is very specialized. And I only use it for bird photography where I've got all the equipment in the car. There is no way I hike with this. It's a Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter lens, which is over 6 pounds. I've got a Wimberley gimbal, which is about 3 pounds. They're both great for what they do, but you never ever hike with this. As you can see, that alone is about 16 pounds. That is almost as big as my landscape kit. So this one stays pretty close to the car, or it's in my backyard. So to summarize to this point, there are ways to lighten your load once you realize you don't have to bring everything with you. Now, I'm sure some of you are chuckling, wondering, what took me so long to figure that out? Well, I don't know, whatever. Now, looking past the near term to the future, there are ways I can spend my way out of the problem. And I don't think I have to spend a lot of money, but things that I can do would be move to a mirrorless system. There are lighter tripods out there. I can get rid of my gear head and replace it with a ball head. Phew, really love my gear head. I can move away from a full frame camera. And if I'm going to carry less, I can start looking at a smaller, more compact bag. So here's what a future wildlife kit could look like. Let's assume move to a mirrorless camera, an APS-C sensor. You still have a 100 to 400 millimeter lens and, a 24 to 105. And you're not giving up any function, really. But look at the weight. It is so much lighter. Now, at this point, you're talking about a world of difference. And if you still need, something like a tripod if you're out shooting wildlife, think about a monopod. I've used them in the past and they're actually not bad. So I think this is a real viable option moving forward. Now, if we look at what a landscape kit would look like, and let's assume you want to stay with a full frame camera. Again, if you move to mirrorless, have the same type of wide angle lenses. And on top of that, you go to a lighter tripod with a ball head. Now you're under 10 pounds. And you still need to get a camera bag, but you've got less stuff. You're going to need a smaller and a more compact bag. There's a lot you can do. Again, you got to spend your way out of the current problem, but very, very doable. But for now, I'm going to stay with the Canon DSLR kit because I know it, I own it, and the simpler changes that I can make right now are going to make a big difference. But it's good to know I've got an escape hatch. So if in 5 years my body really says, look, you got to stop carrying around something so heavy, I know that there's things out there that I can do pretty easily. Now, if you've already made that jump, and I know some of you have because I saw it in the comments, let me know what you did and how much weight you believe you saved. That would be great information to share. There's one thing I haven't mentioned that's also a viable option, and maybe it wouldn't replace everything you've got, but it could play a role, and that is the point and shoot cameras. And I've just begun to scratch the surface on those, and I've done a little bit of research, but there's some great options out there. And they would be very suitable for the instance where you might want to, go on a hike and you want to have a camera with you, but you don't feel like carrying a bag or a tripod. You're not sure what you're going to see out there, or maybe you're just going on a scouting mission and you just want to have something to document where you've been. Those are great options, and maybe we'll save that discussion for another time. So I think the key takeaway here is that downsizing isn't downgrading. You're not giving up a lot in terms of capability and function. In reality, at least if I look at it from my perspective, what I'm buying is more years to be able to do these things that I really love doing. So if you're still here, thank you. If you found a lighter tripod or a body or a lens combo that's really made a difference for you, leave something in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. It'll help me and it'll help others 60 plus who are trying to keep this thing going. And if you want to follow along as I keep figuring this out through the highs, the lows, the occasional bad decision, consider subscribing. We're all learning how to do photography after 60 together. So we'd love to have you come aboard. Bye for now. We'll see you.